The third best episode in Silo history. That's what episode 5 of season 3 is. With an 8.7 on IMDb, it got the scores that we usually see the finales of the seasons getting. The episode titled Memory is quite literally gonna live long in my memory, and I imagine many other viewers as well, as it provided revelations, some of the best performances of certain characters. Robert Sims. It developed the story perfectly, and from a visual perspective, it was absolutely gorgeous on the eye. I feel like all season we'd been waiting for an episode like this, and it hit at the right point, at the halfway point in the season. I've honestly not been able to stop thinking about this episode since it was released, so I wanted to do a video discussing exactly what I loved about it and why I feel it's perfect. So let's get into it. Here is why Silo Season 3 Episode 5 is perfect. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers, so you've been warned. The opening scene. When I tell you that I loved the opening scene to this episode, I genuinely don't think I can overemphasize how much I did. First off, I thought the stylistic choice to put that initial first section of the memory in black and white and to also have it in slow motion, it really did capture the panic and stress that was there, but also the heartbreak that Shirley was going through. It was a contrapuntal technique that was selected perfectly. After the black and white section, we had colour, single take shots and cameras whipping around with noise, but this first section highlighted that it could achieve the same effect by doing the opposite, and I just thought it was beautiful. The flames reflecting in Shirley's eyes was also a gorgeous touch that brought to light just how in focus it was and that she was blinded by what was going on. Through Shirley being the main centerpiece of this opening scene, it made me actually forgive the character for the selfish nature that it felt like she had throughout the first 4 episodes, because this really reiterated just how much she cared about Jules and that she was doing all that she could to rescue her from the flames that were swallowing her. Shirley was actually willing to open the door, even though the air could have still had poison in it, so she was actually putting her life on the line to save Jules. The contrasted approach with the then fast-moving nature of the situation and the almost reality of it, rather than the shock of it, which was represented by the slow motion and the black and white, followed on in a way that accelerated the pace, and I even thought the humour of them stepping over Bernard to check on Jules made me chuckle to myself amongst the chaos. The single-take shot approach allowed the severity to linger and for it to feel like what we were watching was unfolding in real time and like we were almost a fly on the wall. It was great. I even loved the way that when Jules was being lowered down, she was almost being proclaimed as this messiah-type figure that had risen from the dead, and she returned from being sent out to clean, which nobody had ever done before. The cult-like singing that then followed provided answers as well as to why there were so many people that were idolizing her and treating Jules like she was this chosen one that was godly and holy. This was simply the perfect way to open up the episode. Some said to even open up the season, and I think it would have been an amazing way to open up the first episode of season 3, picking right back up from where we left off. However, what I will say is because we waited 5 episodes for it, boy, did it feel even better. It was about time, wasn't it, that we got to see the events of what happened when Jules returned to the silo after season 2, and having it at the halfway point was the right time. Any later and it definitely would have dragged. For me, the finishing touch that made this opening scene perfect was when Jules asked Bernard how she got down into the digger void after everybody believed that he was dead, and then Sims just appeared out of the blue and said to her, "How the F do you think he got down there?" With the title sequence then playing, I literally applauded at the abrupt nature of it and the massive revelation of Sims being on the side of good happening in such a sudden way. I absolutely loved it. Common's performance as Robert Sims. Now, I think I've probably been one of Common's biggest critics throughout this season of the show. However, this episode made me eat my words, and he proved me wrong. Up until this point, I thought he'd been relatively flat in his delivery. I believed he lacked any real emotion, and it was all just a bit surface level. However, in episode 5, it was quite the opposite, and it almost provided a justification as to why the character didn't show any signs of real emotion. It was because he didn't know how to respond to what was going on. He'd quite literally given his life to the silo and his adult life to his wife Camille, and he was being kept in the dark in both aspects of his life. The black and white flashback for him with the algorithm declining speaking with him, asking him to leave and choosing to speak with his wife was something that broke him and you could see it. And I believe that shortly after, with Camille basically ordering him to take out Lucas, Carl, Bernard and Jules, that was when he knew there were secrets that needed unearthing and he wasn't going to just follow commands anymore. He'd done that his whole life and it got him nowhere. The division between him and his wife Camille can really be felt now, and I'm enjoying seeing that whilst being fully in the know about what's occurring whilst Camille isn't. Seeing this more caring side to Sims with the way that he wants his son to remember him and him hoping that he doesn't end up being forgotten by him shows that he wants to leave a legacy. He was interacting with characters like Martha and McLean in ways that we'd never seen before, and knowing that the character was on the side of good, it just made him all the more likable for the first time ever. Common's performance as Sims really allowed me to feel the emotion that he was holding on to, the conflicted nature on what to do and the love that he had for his family, but the yearning to want to be better for the silo because he knew full well the silo could press a button and take all of their lives away if the time came. I also loved the ending when he handed Jules the Pez. He was borderline emotional and it's the most we've gotten from the character. Common proved me and many other doubters of his acting ability as Sims wrong in this episode, and he deserves his flowers for one of the best performances by any cast member across the 3 seasons. The focus on Silo 18. All throughout this season of the show, it's been split. We've had the before times, and we've then also had Silo 18, which is around 350 years later. With Jules not having her memories, it's actually been quite refreshing seeing the before times because it felt like a lot of what was going on in Silo 18 got a little bit stale. However, this episode switched it up massively. Having the memories, the present day, and the before time in one episode all being split evenly wouldn't have allowed the story to progress that much, so what this episode did was it put the before time story on the back burner, and we literally only saw Daniel and Helen in the car at the end after he picked her up. I was fine with that. This truly allowed us to be immersed within Silo 18 for the first time since Season 1 if you think about it. Season 2 had a split story between Silo 17 and Silo 18, so it meant that in this episode it almost went back to its roots and just allowed us to see the wide variety of cast members interacting with one another. It also meant that the plot could progress forward whilst being inside of the silo with no distractions. It also meant that we could get the strong performance from Common. We could have the time with Jules so that when she got her memories back, it felt like a gut-punching moment, and it also meant that we got that beautiful opening scene. There was just room to breathe and we got almost an hour in the same space. I'm not criticizing the fact that we're seeing the before times because I'm enjoying seeing the world before the silos and how the world ended up in a position where the silos were needed. But it just made a refreshing and I'd say needed change to spend all of our time at the place we associate the show being, in Silo 18. The episode felt large in scale. When looking at the core of this episode, we had the memory of Jules being anointed as this messiah after being saved in the memory. We had Robert Sims feeling neglected in his memory. We had Jules and Robert with Bernard looking to help her regain her memories. We had Paul Billings investigating Orla Kent's death in critical supply. We saw him finding out that supplies were running extremely low due to the theft that had been taking place, and we also had the before time with Daniel and Helen being taken to what seems like Per Stenson's place. There was genuinely so much packed into this episode that it just felt like there was so much at stake. The Paul Billings story arc also has so many layers to it because in searching for Orla Kent's killer, it's pushing him to breaking point and making him realize how much he doesn't agree with the pact, but he's being forced to enforce it and as well uncover the thefts. This was the largest scale episode with the most layers that we've had in this season, and it flew by because there was always something to cut to that had relevance and also drove the plot in the right direction. My overall thoughts on the episode. Now, this is the 3rd highest rated episode on IMDb, and do you know what? I think it deserves it. From the moment that it opened to the moment that the credits rolled, I was glued to the screen, and I felt so many different emotions. It was beautiful in many different ways, and it's an episode that I don't think I'll forget anytime soon. Honestly, the amount of times that I've gone back to look at the shot of Shirley looking through that window, it's just so nice. Now that we've passed the halfway point, the next episode has a lot to live up to, so I'm excited to see exactly how the rest of the season's going to unfold. So, there you have it, why Silo Season 3 Episode 5 is perfect. If you want to see more videos on Silo Season 3 being broken down, then check the playlist below. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. It means a lot and I appreciate your support, so thanks. Do you think this episode is perfect, just like me? Share your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.